We interrupt this program to bring you...
I see. Good. I see it. Okay. Well, the card holder acknowledges woman of his choosing, true love, not valid in the state of Utah. Holy matrimony. I gotta get married.
Yes, it's the Mrs. Claus.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
My name is Adam.
And we are The Real Movie Guys. It's Christmas, so you know what that means. Real Christmas. Real Christmas is a special series where we take a look at all your favorite holiday movies, and this time of year, we're going to be taking a look at the Santa Claus series with its sophomore entry, The Santa Claus 2. Scott Calvin has been a humble Santa Claus for 8 years, but it might come to an end if he doesn't find a Mrs. Claus. It's interesting how we go from one film to another in a series. When Disney makes a lot of money, Disney always says, hey, let's see what we can do to exploit that further. And I think the Santa Claus is the perfect example of that. And now, Adam, what do you think of this movie before I go into my thoughts? Overall.
So the gap between the first and the second one, it's like 8 years or something, right?
I believe so. Yeah, it's an 8-year gap, which is pretty substantial when you think about it.
It's really crazy. This one, I don't think it's as good as the first movie. I really don't.
Right.
I guess the times changed, so they changed gears. We're introduced to a lot more characters in this movie.
Right.
But I feel like it loses out on that edge that the first movie had, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to that. That sounds pretty good, and I think they're on target with something there. John, how about you? Overall thoughts before we jump in?
I definitely don't think this one's as good as the first one, but I also thought that the story wasn't as strong for this one. I thought it was almost like one of those stories where they were going back to the well too many times, of like they were trying to find something that they could do with it, just to make the money back with the name of the Santa Claus, but I didn't feel like they did it as good.
Right. So my thought is, for like you guys kind of said right now, it's not as good as the first one, and that's clear from pretty much the get-go of this movie. As soon as this movie starts, it starts off very strange, where we see like they're in the North Pole and there's like a plane flying over, and they're trying to listen for, I guess, the sound, something coming up on the radio broadcast, so they're trying to hide, and they have like ElfCon 1, ElfCon 2. You have like Santa coming up through the North Pole with like one of those spyglass things, trying to see like where the plane's going. Totally different from the first movie already, and that's within like the first 5 minutes. And I think that kind of nails a lot of the issue I have with this movie. Is I feel like this movie is an identity crisis, and by that I mean it doesn't know what it wants to be. I praise the first film so much because the first film knew what it wanted to be. It wanted to be this like unique family film, just telling a simple story about a man becoming Santa Claus, coming closer to his son, yada, 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 Christmas spirit, having a good time. This movie, I don't know what it wants to be at times. There is a good story here. I think I want to praise it for the interesting idea where, all right, there was another clause to the Santa Claus, where he has to find a Mrs. Claus or he won't be Santa anymore, which raises a whole bunch of questions we won't get into as far as, why there wasn't a Mrs. Claus before or what happened to said Mrs. Claus before this film. But again, I'm not going to talk about that. We're going to focus more on, it's a cool idea, right? And it's a good idea to see him kind of go back into the real world, try to find somebody after he's become Santa Claus, kind of had this change in lifestyle, Scott Calvin. I think that's an interesting role, and it's a fun role for Tim Allen to play, right? He gets to stretch his, acting chops as far as, with maybe another adult actress and give us something a little bit more unique. That's half of the movie, right? The other half of the movie is about evil toy Santa, who's crazily overacted by Tim Allen, which we're really going to talk about that. Trying to take over the toy shop and deal with what's going on there. And for me, I don't know what you think, Adam. I just feel like it's too all over the place as far as the tone it's trying to go for in this movie.
I absolutely agree. I think that because the first part that you were talking about with him, trying to find a Mrs. Claus, in a way, that's more of another relatable situation because it's just he's trying to find romance and whatever, and that's your typical Christmas movie. But then
Right.
all of a sudden, the tone shifts, and there's just this mechanical Santa Claus wreaking havoc on the North Pole, and it's just like
Right.
whiplash.
And part of me makes me wonder, like, why couldn't they find a balance like before? In my personal opinion, I think they were afraid to tell like this more. I don't want to say. I guess I'll say it's more of like a Hallmark kind of story with Tim Allen,
Right.
right? Trying to find a wife. Like kids aren't going to be. They're like kids aren't going to care about that. The son's not even involved really anymore. Which there is like a subplot with Charlie coming back, who's again played by the same actor, and all the actors come back for this movie, which I think that's really intriguing. That they
Except for the mom.
oh, the mom was different.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought she was the same. Oh, mind blown. Still, Charlie came back. I think that's more impressive that they brought the same kid back. Usually that doesn't happen in anything Hollywood related. But again, the fact that I think they thought the kids wouldn't be interested in that subplot, or they didn't know how to make it interesting of him finding a wife. So they threw in this weird toy Santa thing, and it just messes the film for me. And I think a big issue is it becomes too silly at times. Like we lose the more grounded realism that I liked in the first movie, and I think families will like as in unison together.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's supposed to be another family movie, right? But then
Right.
I guess it's like they're trying to hit everybody. They're like, all right, the parents are gonna like this, and the kids are gonna enjoy this, and they're really trying to just check all the boxes at that point.
Right. Instead of making it all work together, it feels like it just wants to be separate identities in the film. Like where you watch like a Pixar movie, for example, or even the first Santa Claus movie is probably really the best example. Everything is for all ages. Nothing feels too out of lieu for someone to enjoy. This film, like clearly this part's for kids. Clearly this part's for adults. There's kind of no in between with as far as the jokes that they're telling or even the storylines themselves. Like I could see a kid getting boring when he's just like talking to the future Mrs. Claus. They're not going to really enjoy what's going on here because there's nothing relatable for them to engage in.
Yeah, I feel like they also had a lot of stuff going on for 23 days. Like a lot of crap just went down in 23 days. It's like, what happened the rest of the year? Like, also, I thought it was really weird.
Time
though, too,
management
like,
is an issue, clearly.
well, I thought it was also weird too because you could see like in most of these movies, you see like the elves pretty much know what they're doing. It's not like people are Santa's there all the time, bossing them around, telling them do
Right.
this, do that. But they try to make it seem like because Tim Allen was trying to help out some of the elves in the beginning with like certain things and stuff. He's like, "Oh, take the hat off that thing, and then it will go back and forth, like it won't fall down every time." But and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, well, they need to have the Santa Claus there so everything can run smoothly." But it was like, did they really need him there?
Well, that's what that is a good, as far as logic goes, I think, because they ran the whole thing without him for a year last time, right, when he was becoming Santa. Like he wasn't
Like he
actually
wasn't
Santa.
there.
So what's
No.
another year till he just figures his stuff out and comes back? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not a big a deal as I guess they're trying to make it when you think of logic. But the logic part, I could forgive that to an extent. Again, it's a family movie, it's a kids movie. Let them have fun. The premise itself is great. It's just you're not making it engaging for all audiences, which is where you're going to lose me, especially when you're marketing this as a family film. I just don't think there's parts where people are just not going to enjoy it. And like I said, I think Tim Allen brings the show, right? He's still great, I think. I think we can all agree there. I think Tim Allen does a really good job. He nails all his scenes as far as the humor. Anything he's engaged in, I still do enjoy. I think he's even a little looser in this movie. I don't know if you guys could agree with that. He feels like he's a little having a better time, maybe because he's Santa now. Maybe that's what it was. That's a little more engaging. But I feel like he just was having a good time in this movie. I didn't feel as miserable, and it's fun.
Disney paid him a little bit more.
Disney paid him a little bit more than that never hurts. Paid him a lot more. And that's maybe one of the curses too that comes with this movie is bigger budget leads to CGI, baby. And oh boy, is there CGI in this movie, and is it terrible? It just ages the movie ridiculously because I want to give it credit where they do have the North Pole has some really nice set pieces and designs. I think I do like the workshop look. I think the world is kind of interesting when they do decide to make it. But when you flush in that CGI, man, just like takes everything he did and puts it down the toilet. I'm sorry, it really doesn't age well between like the green screens and the over-the-top antics. It just doesn't work for me. What did you think, Adam? Do you think there was like a little bit too much implementation of CGI? Especially, I want to throw out to you the reindeer fight at the end of the movie. Not great.
I just think that there's so many parts of that, I guess, the CGI that weren't necessary in this film.
Right.
It's just they didn't really need to be there. Like, yeah, you can sprinkle in, a holiday magic here and there, but to go to the extent of all the CGI, I don't think it was really necessary.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I think is the saying there. John, how do you feel about the CGI fun fest that we got?
I agree with you completely. It's terrible. I also think it's also always to me weird too when they do like the snow scenes and you just see them walking on the snow, but it's like just so unrealistic that you're just like, all right, come on. Get rid of that.
The snow, I can forgive them a little bit. For someone who's watched It's a Wonderful Life like a million times and see like the trials and tribulations of trying to film that movie with making fake snow and having to deal with that, I get it. All right, guys, I understand. It's okay. I'll let the snow thing go. I won't give you too much heat for that. I will give you heat for the reindeer because last time you guys were laughing at me when I was talking about the reindeer didn't age well. So I guess you guys like Minnie and reindeer now. They talk like that. What the hell is that? Why is that a thing? Adam, explain to me why that's a thing, please. I need you to.
I don't really like him.
And I hated it. Every second of it made me just like cringe so much that I want to turn the movie off at a few points. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think they could have picked a different personality for him, and it would have been just probably better. Yeah. Just a silent reindeer that comes in, saves the day. Like, oh wow, yeah, no, he can fly or something like that.
And it's bad because you have Comet, which is bad enough. Which I don't. He's like farting and eating candy, and like he can't fly anymore. And it really bewilders me the choice that they made there. But then they bring in the other reindeer, what was his name? I know
Jet.
John knew right away who that reindeer was.
That's right.
Jet is voiced by the voice actress who does Harley Quinn and Phil and Lil from the Little Rugrats, if you didn't catch that.
Right.
And I love that voice actress. I think she's phenomenal, but god damn it, please don't ever voice a reindeer again. Please, just don't do it, because that was agonizing. How about you, John? Did you enjoy that? Jet the reindeer?
Oh, my God. I couldn't stand that part. It was also weird that... It's also weird, too. They're like, hold on, this is the reindeer where we're going to choose to save everything. It's like, come on. You got to give him a better voice than that.
Like, I get marketing to kids. Like, was Jet the reindeer going to be like the next toy from the Santa Claus series that kids were going to fall in love with? With a voice like that, I don't think so. But maybe there is something there. Minions took off, right? So
I don't think he sold a lot of merchandise.
And neither do I.
I don't think so either. Because oh my god, that was horrible. That was a choice. And maybe it is funny in some weird, sick, sadistic way to see Tim Allen talking to a reindeer that's like going like at him. I don't know. Maybe I found a little humor just in that situation alone. Because wow. And then the last part, which we have to address, which I've been waiting for, fake Santa. What the hell were you thinking? What the hell was that? Tim Allen, in order for him to go back to the real world, quote unquote, and find a wife, he leaves a fake toy Santa in his stead, who is apparently just really loud and obnoxious and stupid, but not at the same. I don't know what he was going there for. Adam, I'd like you to explain that to me too, if you could. Explain toy Santa to me.
I believe that is the term overacting.
Oh, chewing the scenery? I mean, I think he's like choking on the scenery from eating so much of it. Yeah, it's over the top. And, at times I think there is a little bit of humor to it. Maybe it's just not the way he did it, I don't think.
I think it's humorous, but not in the way that they intended it to be.
No, it looks horrifying, which that is a joke that they play off on. Like, how would anyone believe that this toy Santa would be the real Santa? Right. And they do try to explain it off, so credit on them for that. We're like, oh, Santa's trying something new. He's trying to look a little more younger and more sleek. And, all right, I give you that. That's a little bit funny, but the acting part I can't forgive. John, what do you think of toy Santa there? Do you think your kids would enjoy toy Santa?
I don't think anybody enjoys Toy Santa. And I also don't understand, like, they try to make it make sense, but then you were like, all right, they have like 15 toy soldiers. Like, how many elves are actually in this dang place that they couldn't overtake these toys?
I don't know. I just think it
And
was just
then
a really bad idea.
also with Bernard, like they took Bernard. It was just like the toy soldiers bend over, and then Bernard's stuck in
Yeah,
jail now. I
yeah,
was like, all right, come on.
yeah.
For Bernard being such a huge character, they really got rid of him pretty
Which
quickly.
is probably like where I kind of want to end the conversation with. Bernard is definitely one of the better parts of this movie. I think actually, as far as everything else that happened in this movie, you could say what you want to say. That was one of the better things we got, and I actually think Spencer Breslin, who was really popular at the time, he plays Curtis. He's one of the new elves that are introduced. You probably recognize him. He was like in The Kid, The Cat in the Hat, around those times. He was very popular in a lot of films at that time. He could come off as kind of annoying, but I think him and Bernard together, I actually really like their chemistry together. And to some points, I think it worked a lot. And I'm glad Bernard got a little more time to shine. If anything, I would have liked seeing him deal with the whole, the Santa Claus workshop instead of the toy Santa. Maybe it would have been fun just having Bernard tied into the story somehow, because I think that was a lot more interesting. What do you think, Adam? I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, I think maybe getting rid of the toy Santa and maybe putting Bernard in charge for a temporary, bit there.
Yeah.
And maybe some sort of other chaos would ensue, something like that.
Or maybe like Bernard wanting to be Santa in some
Right.
way. Maybe like some kind of like little ego trip maybe. Would
Yeah,
have
like
been
the
just
power
more
goes to his
intriguing.
head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could have been kind of cool because he said, "Oh, I can't be Santa" in the first movie. Maybe this time making him want that, something he's always wanted, giving that character, fleshing out an already existing character, might have been a better choice than fake toy Santa.
Maybe making that situation a little bit more relatable again to
Right. Exactly.
whatever kind of everyday situations happen.
Right, because I think, John, we get a little bit with Charlie, which we didn't really touch on because, there's only so much we could talk about. But apparently he likes to, what's it called? He likes to rappel down things. I don't know. Was that like an extreme thing that happened?
I guess.
Yeah, he did it like 4 times in the movie. I don't know if anyone else caught that. He did it like 4 times in the movie. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess that was an extreme thing we were doing in 2002. We were.
Oh, I was
rappelling.
doing
you
it
were.
all the
You were
time.
doing
Yeah,
it. Oh,
absolutely.
okay, and you were tagging things too.
Oh yeah, clearly.
Tagging like Christmas messages.
Because of the Santa Claus
Wow.
too. I was
Wow, mind blown.
Did you do that last week too, Adam?
No, I grew out
Taggins.
of that. I grew out
Oh,
of
you grew
okay.
out of it. Okay. So 2002, everyone rappelled down everything. No one actually walked at all.
People
I
just
think,
came off buildings.
and
Come
it's funny too because that point aside, the Charlie stuff I think could have been interesting because they actually have a very like nice small moment in that movie where he's like, you're Santa Claus, Dad. Like I can't talk about you like other sons talk about their kids. I can't. Like you're like the greatest person in the world, and I can't even tell anyone. That's a cool idea. And it's not really explored except for that one line, and he's just acting out, rappelling down things. That's really all we get in the movie as far as his development. And again, that just contributes to the mess that I think this movie really is. Bigger budget, like we said, doesn't always equal bigger, better story. And I think that Santa Claus is a prime example of that.
Well, I also want to know how long he was hanging up there to tag all that whole walk. That must have been a couple.
Yeah, that was a weird montage
long
right,
hours
at the beginning of the movie where he's like spray painting everything. Like,
And
it
that
took a
girl's
little
the girl's just freezing her butt off on the roof, like, "Hey, you almost done now?
while. Yeah,
I'll
I
be
don't-
here."
Yeah, it was a weird choice. And, I think the Santa Claus 2, at the time, maybe we did want it to some extent. I mean, Disney thought we wanted it, but I don't know. I don't know if it was worth it. But I think at that point, though, we're ready to give our final scores. I'm going to give the Santa Claus 2 a D+.
You need to tell him right now.
I don't know. He's so happy right now. And why do I have to be the one to tell him?
Because I'm the head elf. I don't give bad news. It's one of the perks of my seniority.
Sorry, guys. I didn't find this fun at all. It's not... Again, it's a holiday movie, so take it for what it's worth. There's still some enjoyability to be had here. But when you compare it next to the first movie, it was really hard to get through, especially with how much enjoyment I did find myself having watching the original. This film's too messy. It doesn't know what it wants to be. There's no clear message. I think by the end of the movie, it's very mixed, if anything else. Marry Santa, you're stuck there forever, which we really didn't even get into. I'm going to guilt you into marrying me, so that's what's going to happen now. it's a messy movie, right? And it's a good idea. There is an interesting idea. There is some really good small scenes. Tim Allen brings the heat, but as far as the rest of the movie, I could leave it. John, where do you stand with this film?
I'll give this movie a C+.
You gotta save Christmas.
How am I supposed to save? No.
Don't worry.
Hold on.
I just felt it was like an average to okay, decent movie. I wasn't blown away by anything, but I wasn't like the reindeers didn't kill me, so it's all good.
Jet the
The
reindeer.
aging process.
Yeah, maybe the aging process. Jet the Minion reindeer I could do without. Adam, what do you think?
All right, I'm gonna give it a C.
Ah! Whoa! That's delicious. I like cocoa. Cocoa's superior refreshment. Get me some more cocoa. Whoa!
Right away, Santa.
Whoa! I think Santa feels a little buzz. Woo!
I think just because the tonal shift between the first and the second movie, especially watching them in succession, it's such a downgrade to me. It's still enjoyable to watch, I guess, but I don't know if I would need to watch it next year.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to me, is the rewatchability for me is just really not
Right.
there. I'm going to watch the first one, and we're going to call it a night. You know, I think I'm good. I don't need to go
I
and
agree.
watch the sequels, which is a shame, because I think there is something there. The Santa Claus franchise has some great ideas, just execution, not very jolly, if you ask me. But that being said, thank you guys all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review, Real Christmas Edition. We'll catch you next time when we take a look at the Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
See ya.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.